VOA News. I'm Christopher Cruz reporting. President Trump on Wednesday accused China of trying to interfere with the upcoming United States congressional elections. He claimed China's efforts are motivated by opposition to his tough trade policy. Later, at a news conference, the president said he had evidence of China's actions, but he cannot make it public right now.
We have evidence. It'll come out. Yeah, I can't tell you now, but it didn't come out of nowhere, that I can tell you.
China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi called Trump's claim nonsense. The president also said at the news conference that China seems to be intimidated by him.
I like President Xi a lot. I think he's a friend of mine. He may not be a friend of mine anymore, but I think he probably respects, from what I hear. If you look at Mr. Pillsbury, the leading authority on China, he was on a good show, I won't mention the name of the show, recently, and he was saying that China has total respect for Donald Trump and for Donald Trump's very, very large brain. He said, Donald Trump, they don't know what to do.
The United States again flew bombers over the disputed South China Sea this week. The disclosure coming from American officials on Wednesday. China has long claimed ownership of a large part of the South China Sea, an important international trade route through which billions of dollars worth of cargo is shipped annually. On Wednesday, President Trump took the gavel of the UN Security Council, devoting most of his remarks to criticism of Iran. Trump withdrew the U.S. from a nuclear deal earlier this year.
This horrible one-sided deal allowed Iran to continue its path towards a bomb and gave the regime a cash lifeline when they needed it the most.
Trump called Iran the world's leading sponsor of terrorism. This is VOA News. The U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee said Wednesday it is investigating new allegations of sexually abusive behavior by Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh. The announcement came on the eve of a hearing that will help determine whether Kavanaugh is confirmed to the nation's highest court. Thursday's hearing will feature testimony from Kavanaugh and the first woman to accuse him of sexual assault, Christine Blasey Ford. She claims Kavanaugh sexually assaulted her in 1982 when they were both teenagers. 3 women have now accused Kavanaugh of sexual misconduct or assault. For the first time since taking office, President Trump is endorsing a possible solution in the Middle East peace process.
The president had said he'd back whatever the Israelis and Palestinians might agree to, but now says he wants both to have their own state.
That's what I think works best.
Saying during a meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, his much-anticipated peace plan could be presented in the next few months. Palestinians say he's biased toward Israel, pointing to the U.S. shifting its embassy to Jerusalem. The president says that removed a key barrier to peace.
I took probably the biggest chip off the table.
And says Israel will now have to make concessions to the Palestinians in any talks. Sagar Magani, Washington.
The third super hurricane in a month is heading for Asia, this time setting its aim on Japan. The storm is as strong as a Category 5 Atlantic hurricane, with winds above 200 kilometers per hour. The storm is expected to weaken over the next 72 hours and hit the Ryukyu Islands south of Japan beginning late Friday. It is then expected to turn north and northeast, causing heavy rains and flooding Okinawa before moving on to Tokyo late in the weekend. An estimated 80,000 Americans died of flu and its complications last winter. That is the highest death toll from the flu since 1976. The total was almost twice as much as what health officials had previously considered a bad year. The top story of the hour, President Trump on Wednesday accused China of trying to interfere with the upcoming U.S. congressional elections. He claimed China's efforts are motivated by opposition to his tough trade policy and said at a news conference that he had evidence of China's actions but could not make it public right now. China called the claims nonsense. And the United States again flew bombers over the disputed South China Sea this week. The U.S. regularly tries to undermine China by sending ships and planes into the region. You can find more on these and other late-breaking and developing stories from around the world around the clock at voanews.com and on the VOA News mobile app. I'm Christopher Cruz, VOA News.